This is Alice Thugged. As much as we have, it's currently a media blackout right now. It's about a 10-minute video here. Get the libertarians out of this party, dude. Part of a new series I'm going to be running called Bot or Not.
I grew up as a white man, and you're the exact opposite, you know?
It's time we have a difficult conversation about race.
40 IQ points it needs to think about what is being told to you.
Most people are just blatantly apathetic to what goes on around in their surroundings, let alone this blatantly.
A trans woman's penis make you gay?
Can I decline to answer that comment?
The dating market is for men your age. I'm not a misogynist, I'm a sexist. Right, like for example, like as a white man, I can go out and I could go right here in Columbus and scream the N-word as loud as I wanted to because I have that privilege. Those who would sacrifice a little freedom for a little convenience serves neither.
Titan says, Browns should be for whites. We were just trying to help them run a better empire.
Hey, truth.
But she's like stock market. She's like, bro, like I can't even buy a fucking house. Like,
And it probably doesn't help that half the comments are, "Oh, you're not banned on YouTube, man. How is this guy? How's this guy not banned on YouTube?" It's like, yeah, I'm sure YouTube probably picks up on those things, and they're probably wondering why so many people are saying that,
and all these top brass pundits who have some kind of association or relationship with Epstein, it's getting to the point where you got to think like I'm about to go look at my residential history and be like, did I live next to Epstein for like some time? Like, man, everyone on this planet must have some relation to Epstein. And then you go, oh, actually, no. This is because the administration is all wrapped in together with it themselves.
and I said this maybe about a year ago. What if Christianity wasn't in such a cucked position that what if Andrew Tate, like Tristan, would have went to a Christian position? Fell for it again award, #1 right here. And you know what? I can't even make fun of the audience because I fell for it too. And that's probably what I'm most pissed about. He's huffing some extreme copium. Oh yeah, sister, you definitely owned him. Hey, can I see you after tonight? It's like that's that's what you're competing up against because or bad jacketing him and calling him a weird little gay.
Is this like alt-right Colt's husband? What am I listening to? Okay, stop it. This guy's gonna get into statistics, stuff like that.
Oh, not statistics. Not we don't do statistics.
Hello and welcome in to another episode of Offensively Accurate, hosted by yours truly, Atlas Thug. Just a couple of announcements before we get into the interview. Very excited to get through this. The first thing would be broke 15K subs. Massive thank you to all of you guys. I appreciate that greatly. And also a major shout out to the Lord for just allowing me to be successful in the first place. The second announcement would be there has been a change to the YouTube algorithm that took place this last week. This is going hand in hand with the AI algorithm changes as well. There is a added emphasis on positive comments and also the usage of the Gemini AI system. So some things I'm going to have to play around with, but many YouTubers right now are saying that the best way to help drive engagement and boost the algorithm is positive comments. It's actually more so now than liking and subscribing. Also do that as well though. But with that, make sure you also smash the like button and then subscribe if you haven't already. But joining me is an OG, the meme king veteran himself, Mr. John Ward. Who are you, sir, and what do you do?
What? That was a legendary introduction. None of that is true. By the way, not a king.
None of it's
not
true.
a king. more of a dictator. I more have been handed power by the Roman Senate temporarily to restore order. No, yeah, no, it's great to be here. It's awesome. We were just talking a little bit off the air before the show started, how you're starting a journey that my old ass, my boomer ass began several centuries ago, and it's cool to see you going through it as well. So very happy to be here.
Yeah.
Cool channel and things you're doing, and looking forward to whatever it is that you want to talk about.
Yeah, no, definitely. Well, I guess we can.
On it.
Well, this is how we should start, because I think we might not actually be politically aligned ourselves. I'm kind of curious. We'll get into a bit more of your past story, but talk to me about political positioning. I am a Christian nationalist, and like we talked about a little bit before air, I lean Groyper, if not full-blown Groyper already at this point. So I'm kind of curious, where would you say that you land on this political spectrum?
On the Groyper spectrum, on the axes of Groyperness, my plus X or negative Y or positive Z, it's hard to say. Do we need quaternions to plot my position? We might. Fuentes is younger than me and before my time. His rise was after my time. And so I've actually only somewhat recently kind of started watching his stuff. Now, again, having been doing this for 10 years, he very obviously was under attack, which made him interesting for years now.
Right.
It's not that I don't watch him. I was just telling you, I don't really watch anybody until they become particularly interesting. But he has quite clearly built something that I am familiar with, and that is he has genuine influence. He has real fans. You probably as a creator have started to understand these accounts that have 2 million followers and get like 4 comments and shit like that. And so I do believe he is as legitimate as somebody can be in this industry. And I do think, and I've a couple months, I've been somewhat watching him regularly, and that's it. But
okay.
he has a plan. I've known of him for years, but in my old ass, again, I'm going on 40 to put that in perspective for anybody. So 10 years, more than 10 years older than you. So I've seen too many people rise and fall in similar ways, and I've seen too many people get artificially propped up as controlled opposition. I'm not saying that's what he is, but if he is some sort of controlled opposition, it's to take good ideas and use language talking about them that make them hard for regular people to accept. And so that's one of these things that becomes more important as you get older, and is the normies or whatever you want, the NPCs are retarded, but also a real force that gets wielded by the left mostly quite efficiently with a lot of, it's a force is mass times acceleration, and the normies are this giant mass. They're
Yeah.
I don't. So anyway, so where do I fall on the spectrum? Is I don't know. I'm highly suspicious. I'm like a wild animal that's been caught in a fucking trap, gnawing my own leg off. And so I'll do that with Fuentes. I'll do it with anybody else too. That's just become my default reaction. And having looked at politics for 10 years, almost every day. That being said, I'm more hopeful for the Groypers and Fuentes than anybody I have seen in that 10-year period, except maybe 2016 Trump, somebody like that. But
right.
He's just getting started in his career, and I'm very interested to see where it goes and how he navigates. He's clearly smart enough to be aware of all the minefields being laid in front of him. I think so far he's navigated it pretty well. So I totally, we had some guys, younger guys closer to your age in our studio that work here. That are Groypers, and they're huge. You can't convince them. I think the guy walking out the door as you were going live was saying he'll die for Nick Fuentes and whatever. And he has that kind of influence, and that's very interesting. And something to take. I think the machine is taking it seriously. The machine, or whatever you want to call it, the system always wants to twist people into using them to their own advantage, and you can see those machinations and forces being put on Nick, but. I would say, I don't know. So to tie that all together best I can, that rambling, incoherent nonsense, I understand why you guys in your 20s like Fuentes. I think it's good. I think he's somebody worth listening to. As somebody who's listened to many people who initially seem good, like Jordan Peterson comes to mind.
Right.
You got to give this stuff some time. 30 to 40 years old is this period, I think, where you sort of start accepting things really are that fake and gay. So
Very
really
true.
rooting for Nick, but I don't pretty not black-pilled, but cynical. I'm pretty cynical these days.
I'm right
My
there with
boom-
you. And it's
My boomer old age.
well, I think it's funny too because there's two things you'd mentioned there that we could dig a little bit deeper in. The one would be, yeah, it is kind of wild that some people pay $1,000 a month for a golden check mark only to get like 3 likes on their posts with like 400,000 impressions. It's like so much money goes into astroturfing, and you're spot on. You notice it the longer you're into it because some of the stuff's not noticeable on the on front or the onset. You have to spend some time with it, and then you'll begin to realize like, oh, okay, I see what's going on here. But the other thing would be the extreme loyalty and actual like tangible influence that he does have, because in Martyr Made, I think, and Daryl Morey or Daryl Cooper, forgive me, the guy who runs the Martyr Made podcast, he had a funny post where he actually agreed with Nick, and Nick had commented and complimented him back. And the compliment ratioed his original post. So even being nice and not being combative, he was getting ratioed. And I think it does show there is a clear and strong, like, single individual who's honing the majority of all the Gen Z influence. And I think that's partly why you see they're very afraid. It's because he is kind of garnering under one battalion, this one guy, taking all of that kind of anger and emotion from Gen Z and wielding it against their interests, which is largely, Israel and things that we don't like here in America. But not to spend too much time on Nick, go back to like yourself. I'm kind of curious.
Yeah, I didn't really answer the question, did I? I'm realizing.
You're good. You're good. We'll find an answer eventually.
I'll try to be. Go ahead.
I'm cool because you've been in this for a lot longer than me, and I think a lot of the way people address you that I've met, like from Zeb and otherwise, they address you as like this OG. And so I'm kind of curious, what got your start? Because obviously I got involved after 2020, so I'm like a whole 10 years after you. What was that moment for you? What kind of got you started with all this?
Yeah, I can tell you quite a specific story of how it literally started. I have a background in indie film, sort of.
Interesting.
I guess, if you say so. But, I had, my generation has this unique insight into the development of technology that I don't think another generation will have for a long, long time. But so I was enough of an adult before there even was the internet. I remember those times. I remember getting a Swan computer. You probably never heard of that brand.
No.
So I saw all this stuff get built up. The early day internet was really cool. It was there was a barrier to entry to getting on the internet initially, that you had to be kind of smart. And what technology has done since like the 90s until 10 years ago was just made it easier and easier for retards to get on the internet. And then the internet got all fucking retarded.
Yeah.
But so it's like old for me. It's like, I think like 60, 70-year-old guys in cars. I talk about cars. I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about. Like, I know a little bit, but if I need my car fixed, I go find some redneck 60-year-old or 70-year-old who just knows all this crazy shit I'm never going to bother to learn. Guys in their 40s are like that with computers. And so, which we were just chatting about a little bit as well, but all these weird little things you got to learn to become a YouTuber. So it happened before AI can make fucking videos for you and all that shit. I knew how to edit videos. I knew how to film stuff. I knew how to make good audio, how important that was. I was randomly watching, I wasn't even into politics, this fucking interview from 2015, I think, of Don Lemon and Sheriff David Clark. And wasn't even really anti-CNN or super pro-Trump or anything like that. It was just the dumbest fucking thing. Don Lemon is, first time I ever saw him was that interview, and I was like, this is the dumbest fucking guy I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah.
It was so fucking stupid that, so I was like, well, I know people on the internet make these videos where they take that video and they just talk over it. So I did that. That wasn't very hard to figure out. That was like summer 2015 or something like that.
Dang, okay.
That video sat until December with 0 views. And then one night in December, Don Lemon, I guess, did something else stupid and people were Googling his name. And it got like 100,000 views. Made way more money than I was, it took me 4 hours, I think, to make it. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, it was just like, that's a lot better than the other shit I'm doing for money. Maybe I'll try to do that for a while. Now, of course, those videos are few and far between, as you learn the hard way, but you end up chasing the dragon. but yeah, it became obvious that if I really focused on this, I can make a living at it. And like I was telling you off the air, I didn't really know a lot about politics other than I thought fucking Don Lemon was the dumbest fucking guy I've ever seen in my life. And so
Yeah.
I guess I was like, I might need to look into Trump here because I hate all the people that don't like him. And it's
There's
really
something
hard
here.
to appreciate how awesome Trump was in 2016. It's probably how you feel about Fuentes now. Probably cooler than that, honestly, because up until that point, like you weren't even comfortable as a white person like saying Black American because you're like, is black a slur?
Right.
That was that whole age of like African, Congo, Equatorial, shade of
Yeah.
brown, American.
I can remember clear
where-
as day my dad telling me in
dad
the
all-
car, he told me, it was like, you can say black. I remember that.
Yeah.
Like,
Well,
clear
you
as
didn't
day.
know what the rules were, but there's this copy pasta that goes around about why white men in particular are so pissed off, and it says because they were raised to be the most tolerant generation. That was fucking me. Crazy liberal mom, give other kids your toys because you're guilty of something. I'm like 4 years old. I'm like, all right, whatever. I don't really give a shit.
Yeah.
But yeah, you get into adulthood after that whole time period and you realize how true all that stuff was. And Trump was the first guy to just be kind of no bullshit about it. He was just like, this is fucking stupid. The same way Nick talks now. This stuff is fucking stupid. This Israel stuff is fucking stupid,
Right.
and Trump right now is being fucking stupid. And this doesn't help young Americans. And, and you're like, yeah, that's fucking true. I agree with that. And so I started following politics right as Trump was running in 2016, which was a great time. I mean, the meme magic, the first great meme war, whatever you want to call it.
Right. Right.
And I even though I blew up with this stupid talking head voiceover shit that's really easy to do and everybody does now, the whole meme, like so some of my biggest videos, and I think what I'm actually most known for is more the music, like the songs.
Yeah.
So I got very interested in I find politics boring. I don't like to watch 2-hour speeches. I don't like to watch 2-hour videos of people breaking down politics. I think that stuff the whole concept of a meme in general is data compression. It's like, are you old enough to know the comic The Far Side? One of the greatest comics ever made, like like a comic strip, single panel. Gary Larson. Oh, you fucking young kids. Gary Larson was incredible, and all his comics were just a single panel, sometimes without even text or anything. But it was the original meme. He was just reducing some funny concept into a picture.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's what memes do. The meme of the guy with his girlfriend who's angry while he's checking out the other girl walking past. There's a lot of information that's compressed into that image that people can look at it. They don't even need to speak English, and they get what's going on.
Right.
So I realized that the left was doing that quite successfully more than the right. The left has music. The left has movies. The left has all that creative stuff they have because they understand the importance of it. And there wasn't anybody on the right ever really pushing back from that angle, like music and movies and things like that. And so, obviously, the holy grail for me has always been to make a feature film, something I'm working on now, sort of. But back then, it was, you bust out your pirated copy of Fruity Loops, and you whip up some shitty beat, which I happened to know how to do just from liking computers in the early 2000s. And yeah, you make some stupid fucking rap song over it and whatever. So I think I was able to kind of punch through maybe where some other people weren't and somewhat make a name for myself in 2016 through 18, let's say, by just doing stuff that no one else was doing. And it's why I'm interested in talking to people like you. And we met through Zeb Boykin, who's a great dude, but yeah, everybody approaches this from different angles, but then you get people like now. This has all evolved into like Charlie Kirk has become a gatekeeper. Crowder's become a gatekeeper. Even Tim Pool. You see the factions that are starting to fight over this influence. That Nick is the only one that actually has sort of a genuine one, and so that's the battle you see in front of you. And I've always sort of been the right like the mainstream people on the right, who some of whom I got to know over the past 10 years, like don't really want anything to do with me. They don't really understand. They want to write essays, right? They want to make newspapers, you know, shit geared at like what 70-year-old people like. And
Right.
I've been saying forever that shit doesn't work. And so Fuentes, to his credit, is somebody who understands that as well. He is telling a story. That's what he's doing so well. Like he goes back to the beginning of it. He talks about all this history, what's happening now, and where it will go. And so that's maybe, I'll shut up now for a little bit, but that's maybe coming full circle. The way I look at Nick, like I said, I quite like Nick. I just don't trust anybody. It's not unique to him.
Yeah. Well, and that's kind of like,
the story is winning despite the gatekeeping storytellers all fighting against him. So that's very interesting. Go ahead. Sorry.
well, it's funny that you had said that, because one of the additions that made the conclusion of one of my recent videos, I think this was the Nick versus everybody video that I had made, but I had added a tweet from the Ferryman's Toll, who's kind of like in that same ballpark as you, which was, you know, they didn't really have a strong opinion of Fuentes. They'd largely been kind of like negative towards him, but it was just the sheer amount of people that he can't stand coming out against him made him think like, then maybe there's something to this kid, because if all my enemies are mad at this guy, then does that make this guy my friend, you know?
That was the vibe around Trump in 2016. That was the logic. Yeah. Like none of us were into politics. And then you just could see, you know, and all the media was Trump's rapes women and fucking, and you're just like, this is so clownishly stupid.
Yeah.
I might start listening to Trump. He's
right.
not the same person he was, but back then, like, yeah, he was very comparable to how Nick is now. It's interesting. So,
right. And that was kind of when I was probably the most buried away from politics, because I was I was going to the Ohio State University then. And
fucking watch football, huh?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I know who you're a fan of.
Kind of, but I live here, so I gotta be. Penn State, whatever. Yeah. It is.
Hey, you guys are tough though. No more sports ball.
No, we're not.
It's
all good. I don't care anymore.
Right. No, I'm getting that way too. Well, I guess the thing though with Trump though. Well, I had missed like the majority of all that energy, because I was kind of buried in that college scene where I was in that mindset of like, I need to be a good white person, you know? I need to, when I enter the room, I need to let every black person know, hey, I'm not going to hurt you. I think slavery was bad. You know, like that's kind of like where my mindset was at then. And it just evolved. And largely
trained to do that. Like your school, did you go to public school?
Yeah.
Like high school or whatever? Yeah. They fucking train you. So not your fault.
Well, it was
Robin Williams a little bit. It's not your fault, Good Will Hunting.
Yeah.
Probably don't even know that movie either, do you?
I'm familiar with that reference. No, for me, it was weird because I went to a small high school that was like a lot more rural area. So we had like, you know, I mean, I'm a trailer park kid, essentially. That's kind of like the vibe of like where I grew up. And we had like maybe 2, 3, 4 black people in the entire school the entire time I went. And it was still like bending over backwards. Like, here's American history, and it starts with slavery. And it's like, oh, Lord have mercy.
That was us too. Small town in Pennsylvania. Same deal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Still getting the same orders from the same DOE.
Or like what's happening with Minnesota now. It's the areas that were more white, actually, because they're good fucking people. And they get propagandized of like, well, your life is great and there's no crime and violence and stuff. Why don't you accept some of these poor, downtrodden, you know, pit bulls around your baby children? And you're like, okay, sure, why not? Now we've gone through the 20, 30 years since then where you're like, oh, that's why we don't excel. Oh, I see now. So.
Yeah. Well, for me, it happened anecdotally. Like, this was a change that happened anecdotally because I was in college while everything around you peripherally is growing. These people are worse off. Like, you know, whites are holding them down. You know, all the same kind of woke jargon. But then in person, I go to play a pickup game. I'm getting thrown on the ground because like I'm white. What? What's going on here? Or I'm like, you know, I'm being like pushed out of certain events because like I'm not white, or there's too many white guys in here. A lot of bars had that kind of environment. Like it was crazy. And parties obviously have that kind of stuff too. And so that was kind of like the opening bits of it. Now that kind of leads itself into when I was in the city, and I won't tell too much of where I was at, but I was in a big urban metro area. And at first it was okay, but then I started Ubering because I needed a second job. And it was after I started Ubering that I really became, I became a race realist so fast. Just so many experiences anecdotally that, for one, I was seeing with my own eyes, like, there's way more immigrants here than, dude, 10 million. There's 10 million in Columbus. Like, there's no way there's 10 million in the whole nation. Like, and so for me, that's kind of how it broke open. And I think it was having the constant IRL examples of, like, this is what's happening, versus Tim Pool, Steven Crowder, and everyone else is going, well, like, it's not that bad, or don't believe your lying eyes. And, like, they weren't too bad about it. But now we're kind of moving to this position where I think the majority of people are, maybe not the majority of people, but there's a large plurality of people who are hungry to have race realism explored at a higher level than just kind of talk on the internet. So I'm kind of curious, where you are with that, and, like, where do you think that conversation is going to go?
If I cared about my brand, I wouldn't touch this with a 10-foot pole, but I don't. So I'm going to give it to you straight. Well, yeah, like that. I got an anecdote, a lengthy anecdote, I guess, a series of anecdotes. I'm just going to give you my biography. How about that?
Word. Okay.
Number one is I grew up like you in a small rural area. There wasn't a lot of racial minorities. We were all trained to be very, we somehow did something wrong to them. A lot of it, like, I was friends with those people. I was always pretty smart going through school too. And so one thing you realize after the fact, like, I didn't realize this until I was almost 30, but all those Indian and black and whatever Asian kids that I went to high school with were the cream of the crop from their home country. Like, they escaped poverty, and often because their parents were highly educated professors that managed to get a job at Penn State.
Right.
And so we're a rural town, but it's weirdly international, and has been, because the university would attract those people. But I mean, those kids were very well behaved. They were all taking AP classes. That was just the very beginning of it. But your impression of is like, oh, they're all right. Like, they're smart, they're polite, they go to church and whatever.
Right.
Go to college in Pittsburgh, and again, a pretty highly ranked college, like, played rugby, racial minorities there because it's an international sport. Again, very, very smart. We were open. That's where, like, I really embraced the whole being openly racist to each other. So our, 30 guys in this rugby club, and at least half of them were, a lot of kids, like, where's rugby big?
Like New Zealand, Australia.
Yeah, New Zealand, like Pacific Islander, Hawaii, those kind of Asian kids, like the big fucking sumo looking Asians.
Yeah, Polynesian
guys, great dudes. And you're beating the shit out of each other and getting drunk every day. And so again, it's mostly a positive experience. Then I went to San Antonio. I chased a girl after college down to San Antonio, Texas, which is Mexico.
Okay, was that a good decision?
No, in every way possible. But that's where I got this job at a bar bouncing when I had started making this indie film, and our funding got pulled, and I was like, fuck. So I just started taking jobs. Yeah. And I was like, I don't know, 25, and I was still in kind of rugby shape and shit back then. So I got a job as a bouncer at this fucking Mexican dive bar. It's the only white person that worked there. They all hated me. They mostly only spoke Spanish. So they see me. I look different. I'm the outsider. Again, San Antonio, holy shit, I swear to God, it must be like 75% Mexican.
It's crazy.
But in being this guy that moved and knowing I was the outsider, and I was lucky enough to have learned a little bit of Spanish in high school, so I made an effort. I understood why they were making fun of me. I cracked some jokes at my own expense, and then I let them know, I spoke a little bit of Spanish. Waited till they were talking shit on me, and then and then they loved me forever from there. So I was El Güero, the light-skinned Mexican.
That's funny.
And so, but
him.
Yeah, well, so that never ever really got reciprocated. It was actually being in San Antonio, ingratiating myself to them, letting them make fun of me. I was assimilating into their culture. That was, the dominant culture, because I was the outsider. And that's kind of where it clicked for me. It's like, you motherfuckers you never did this in return. In fact, I'm still in fucking America, aren't I? And this is all kind of fucking backwards a little bit, isn't it? Now, as individuals, those people were all fine. But yeah, That was also, so at that bar as a bouncer was when I learned that Mexicans are big fans of running people over with their cars as a weapon. Ever seen that? And it never occurred to me that people do that. Like every fucking night someone was getting run over with a goddamn car, like in the parking lot. It was just crazy. No value on human life.
Dang.
None of these people had futures. Like none of them went to school. They were ready to die at any moment because they just didn't give a fuck.
Right.
And yeah, that was kind of like as the only white person there, I'm like, there's a better way than this, right? You guys are aware of that? Like we can live a better life than this.
Right.
Fucking Martin Luther Kinging them, But yeah, so I don't know that even addresses your initial question. I rambled so much, but just to give you some perspective. And so I started to get I lost my patience for tolerance because it never got reciprocated. And that's that copy pasta of the young white men. It sounds like you're one of them too, where we did everything right, man. We were always by default friendly. You get an interaction with a stranger, our reaction is to by default be friendly. That's domestication. We're like dogs and they're wolves. And it's just makes this very one-sided game. And so this whole red pill movement thing, wake people up. I mean, if anything, that's and some of the Nick Fuentes and the Groypers are undomesticated in their use of language. And if we're outside of just shooting each other, that's the final step. But before you get to that point, there's this battle of words. It's all the shit talking before the fight. And sometimes if you can talk shit articulately enough, you don't have to actually fight. Trust me, actually fighting sucks donkey balls. We don't want that if we can avoid. I'm not sure it's avoidable, right? Don't get me wrong.
Yep.
But yeah, I think anybody reasonable and 30 years or older will go to follow Nick Fuentes before everything gets truly crazy. But
right. No, I mean
it's bad, man, and it's I struggle maybe more than you Groyper guys do to put a color of skin on it.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that you universally believe like the shittiest white person is better than the absolute best possible 99% white person, or I mean maybe you do believe that. I don't really care. It doesn't matter to me, but my perfect world would be a meritocracy, and I believe if that's what it was, the United States would be mostly white, and Japan would be mostly Japanese, and et cetera, et cetera. And that's fine by me. And that's what I would like.
Yeah.
I don't want to go to Japan and it's America. I don't really want to go to Japan at all. I just want it to be somewhere not here where it's Japan. And I want here to be America.
Right.
And
and
the way things have gone in the 10 years I've paid attention, I'm not happy with it. And that's what motivates me to fight. And I believe in fighting in a way that actually works. Right. And so, whether that's a song that can maybe go viral or whatever, but it ain't you and I talking right now is great, but this is like going to the same church and talking to people that believe the same things you do. It doesn't expand the sphere of influence. And that's something Nick actually is doing. And that's so rare. So, I mean, again, yeah.
No, he's great with it. And, I'm going to have some conversations coming up as well, as it pertains to a bit more of like the race realism perspective, because there's been a lot of strong like Christian, like nationalist voices kind of enter the fray. You have like Michael Spangler and you have Cody Justice, Stone Choir. There's a lot more. Joel Wibben's kind of taken a bit more tentative position towards it, but you're probably closer to where he's at with that. I guess and this is the thing too, whether you were to put assign a value to whether one race is superior to the other, I think is even outside of what we're trying to solve for, which is this country is unstable. It's being pulled in 110 different directions, and multiculturalism is a failure. And so I think the ultimate idea is it has to be homogenous, but homogenous in what way? And that's, I think, where the real question is at. And the Backlash brought up a great point when they were talking and looking at countries that were like largely like 90% Christian, like Haiti. There's a few other ones that kind of fit that metric, but they clearly don't. Christianity is not the thing that's holding them and their country together. It's actually like, it's almost kind of like meaningless. You wouldn't even know. And so I think that's kind of where I've arrived, where I do think that
great in Haiti. Haiti ain't holding itself together too well, given
No, not at all. But I think that through the conversation and through those lenses where I've kind of reached the idea of like, I don't think that you need to even apply a superior and inferior aspect to it. It's just the reality that like a society must function homogeneously or it won't function. And I just think that's, I don't know if that was Aristotle or Socrates who kind of penned that.
No,
But
I think that's 100% true, and partially why I think I kind of subconsciously choose Japan. But Japan, my sort of theory on human origins is, number one, the out of Africa thing is retarded. But somewhere in the Fertile Crescent, around where civilization itself started, you had this spread east and west, and the people that went east ended up on this island called Japan, and the people that went west ended up on this island called Great Britain now.
Yeah.
And those islands finally allowed these cultures to develop. Like again, you go east, you get to China. China was getting raped by Mongolians for like 1,000 straight years. You just can't really like do a whole lot.
Yeah, right.
When Genghis Khan is butt fucking you to death every 10 years. But you get to the island, and the Mongols tried to invade Japan, I think twice, and got taken out by hurricanes and shit. So like a cell developing a cell membrane. Japan was able to do it, and Britain was able to do it, and to whatever extent. But
right.
And then so these cultures develop more exceedingly interesting people that hit a point where like they're too interesting for the culture and they need to fuck off and go even further. And so that's where England came to the United States. The even more interesting people kind of came and founded the United States. And so,
right. And
but
it's like
yes,
kind of
as
like
far
building.
as, yeah, it only works when things are homogenous or homogenous enough. And it even goes beyond the culture, but what is the agreed upon homogenous goal? What is the social contract? What are we trying to do? Are we going to conquer everybody and kick the shit out of them? I don't know that it really matters what it is.
Right.
But like you're saying, it needs to be something. And I would agree, like I think with you and definitely with Zeb, that America is fundamentally a Christian white nation.
Yes.
And also that is probably a Christian white culture the most conducive to a civilization that will build things like starships and shit like that. Like it's just, I mean, we have a very small sample size.
Right.
Maybe after, maybe I'll give it 100 years and we'll have the Congolese Starlink. I don't know. Could happen.
Right.
I don't think it will, but
No,
but it could.
On a side
But yeah,
point, when I
given
see
the
Mr.
available information, the rational decision, even without the facts of who founded the country, just the rational decision is let's let any culture we want to grow be white and Christian. So
Right.
what I think is interesting and where Zeb and I sometimes get into it is, what does Christian mean? Kind of curious what your answer to that is. Because there's a lot of answers to that.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because I was going to ask you what is an American.
Tell me what's Christian, and I'll tell you what's American. How about that? But you got to go first.
Yeah, to me, I think a Christian is anyone, even among, I would include all the sects. I would include Protestant. I would include Eastern Orthodox. I would include Catholic. I believe a Christian is somebody who does believe in the power and divinity of Jesus Christ. He does believe he is the Messiah. I believe a Christian is someone who believes in the Trinity. I believe a Christian is somebody who acknowledges and recognizes that they have, the fallen condition of man. And I could probably go on, and there's kind of like more of some of the basic tenets. But I think you're probably more so asking, what is a Christian in terms of?
One of the problems we run into is kind of what I'm getting at. So I was raised Catholic.
Yeah.
I don't go to Catholic mass or any. Our diocese was one of the ones that was fucking with kids and shit. And so that was kind of the end of Catholicism for me. I've always really enjoyed the Bible. I did read it at one point. And I always, quite obviously, in being a YouTuber, like I think for myself, pathologically so, to my own detriment all the time. But I remember being a little kid in Sunday school and it was like, you give me the fucking book, I'll read it and I'll decide what it means. And then we can talk about it. But I don't need your fucking stupid whatever. And then I became suspicious also as I got older that it was kind of training me to be a fucking little bitch. And give it was just an extension of the small town white culture of give all your shit away to people that are a different color than you. And then that, ended up not getting reciprocated and makes you suspicious. But
right.
There is enough infighting on the Christian right, and I don't know that I know what that even means, but it's very important to some. So some people are very like, what kind of Christian are you? I particularly don't really give a fuck. I'd more about American is the church that I want to found. That's the spiritual idea that needs definition. You got to
Yeah.
answer number one, the question of like, first of all, what's the problem? That's what I always like to ask. What is the problem? Really hard question to answer because, well, there's more than one problem. Okay, well, what is the problem? It's just
Right.
fucking hard to answer that question.
Well, that's part of the
But,
issue is it's like everything's like multivariable. You know, it's like very few things can ever be explained with like one singular
Right.
variable that caused the problem. It's like there's a multiple.
Step on one of those bouncy balls that like fucking, it's like trying to stomp on a beach ball. It just goes somewhere else. When you go
Right. Exactly. It's hard to pin down. I did want to say though, thank you very much. Lord of the Re super chatted and thank you very much for put on screen here. He says
Lord of the Rings?
Am I reading that right? Happy Hard M Wednesday. World champions. Glad to see you two get together. John now is inward. LOL N-word coming along. So you guys is curious, how is that project coming along?
Oh, Inward, sure. Yeah, Lord of the Ree is a great dude. He is a musician who has been working on some music for this mini series I've been working on called Inward, which is my first serious attempt at creating. So like 4 episodes, 30 minutes. Basically, it's the length of a movie, but in 4 parts.
Interesting. That's awesome.
And yeah, I just like someone has got to take a crack at a non-documentary, like a genuine piece of fiction that's interesting. And so, without giving away too much about it, it's just gonna kind of be like a mystery. Again, I'm limited by being one guy, and so I have to play pretty much every character, and I don't want to just do Fight Club again and that kind of shit. And
right.
So you got to like, how do I make 120 minutes of a movie style content that is good, where I'm limited by basically me being in it and using the locations and equipment that I have. Fortunately, I have decent equipment, and so you start to construct this story-driven idea, which so that's my roots. I love film, like as an art and all that stuff, and great directors, and I love that so much more than politics. That's what I've always wanted to do. But now you turn on, Netflix or HBO and you watch a movie about baseball, and in the first 30 seconds, there's like 2 dudes kiss, and then somebody butt fucks somebody with a bat. There's just shit in there that makes no fucking sense.
Right.
And it doesn't drive the story. I'm all for gay people or feminists making their own movies and, having their own little movie parties, and I just don't need to fucking know about it. But you cannot watch a movie or TV anymore without something like that getting shoved in there.
Right.
And so I found myself sitting there being like, I don't even care what it is anymore. I just want to watch something good that doesn't have that shit in it. And so that's what Inward will be an attempt at is just a good fucking story with good enough production quality that has I guess you'd say a right-wing leaning, but I like to think of it as more just not retarded leaning. I'm just leaning into the not retarded
Remove
side
the
of the
woke
spectrum if I can. So
yeah, no, I get it.
Well, I want it to be good. And so yeah, so you learn as a creator like you are, you collaborate with these other people. We found out Hank Williams, who I like, his music all just entered the public domain, but not the recordings, just the music. And so you can't use his recordings, but you can make covers and use that without violating copyright anymore. And so Lord of the Rings been like re-recording a bunch of Hank Williams songs. So that's how I know him. He's a good
Interesting. Dude. That's pretty cool, actually. I was thinking about that too because I wanted to do I use a song for my intro, but I obviously didn't want to get annihilated by copyright strike.
Oh,
and I looked
become a copyright ninja by the end of all this. Yeah,
well, I looked at because I was gonna see. I was like, well, maybe I can just buy it, right? Because I know exclusive rights are going to be pretty expensive, but maybe I can buy some limited license from them. And it was like the one thing that wasn't included on the limited license was live streams. And I was like, that sucks. I'd have to actually go and buy the exclusive. But on all those ends, on the musical side too, one question I wanted to ask, just as a side point, not to get away from the main conversation, what is your opinion on Tom McDonald?
Fucking hate him.
Because
sucks. He's a fucking pussy. I will fight him right now. I'll fight him yesterday. I'll kick his little stupid tattoos in his dumb face. He's a piece of shit bitch.
He's
Yeah,
cringe.
I'm sorry. What
He's
was your
cringe.
question?
I mean, but this is what I see. Like this is so the right wing goes,
Yeah.
we need to make content, and then Tom McDonald comes out. It's like, oh Lord, dude. I'd
I
rather
didn't
watch
like
the left wing with two guys kissing, to be honest with you.
This Ben Shapiro thing is what kind of put it. You know, he has this absolutely great diss rap against fucking, is it Mac Lethal or something like that? Some other internet rapper. This was before he got political. It's
Interesting.
fucking good, man. Like, it's really good. And then
Interesting.
I'm sure he ran into the same walls I ran into, and everybody that does is if you're conservative and you make music, you won't go anywhere. So then somewhere not too long ago, he decided Ben Shapiro's dick and balls were looking pretty tasty. And went and slurped on those, put out that absolute fucking horseshit song. And yeah, it's all his songs are just these shitty beats. He just sucks now.
Oh, we have a
And
big super
yeah, he'll
chat in
never
here.
fucking respond to me because he knows I'll slap his limit. He knows I'm 9 feet taller than him, and he's a genuine little Canadian bitch. Oh yeah, he'll pick fights with like the Krasensteins, which again, who doesn't? They suck too. They're fun to fight, but
Right.
whole fucking tattoo, fucking teeth. You don't scare me anymore, dude. Again, I was every day picking up people that got ran over by cars in San Antonio. So yeah, anytime, Tom, you fucking bitch.
1 second, because I got a huge super chat from Bible Book Club for $50. Thank you very much, brother. I appreciate that greatly. He says, Ohio man here myself, our solutions are not at the federal level. State and local politics are key. Our Ohio Constitution, a wonderful document. The thing that I fear the most, though, well, just on that a minute, and I'll go back to Tom McDonald, is
Do you like
Vivek is.
Tom McDonald? No, go ahead, dude.
I can't stand
We'll
Tom
get back to
McDonald.
it.
No, the Vivek looks like he's probably going to take the governorship in Ohio as it sits right now.
That way.
I am so deathly afraid of what that means for the future of Ohio. And especially because, and we'll get into this a bit later, because like the thing, this is what's happening to Pennsylvania, or did happen to Pennsylvania the last year, our last election, which was Pennsylvania is becoming a lot more of a purple ground. You know how like Florida used to be like this purple battleground state, but Florida's red now. And I think that focus then shifted to Pennsylvania this last time around as being a large state, big population, but is like, could go either way. I see Ohio being that this next time around. It also being this kind of like up in the air. And I think we have less electoral votes than you, but we're still like 16. It's still like a, you know,
Yeah,
a
not
sizable
by
amount.
much. It's a substantial state.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's definitely some weird thing going on in Ohio. It's being targeted exactly like you said.
Right.
I fucking and Vivek or however you say his stupid name.
I know. Well, there's all the
he-
immigrants getting dropped off, right? They're eating the cats and the dogs. That was Ohio. That was less than like an hour away from me, or like a little over an hour away from me. And you know, I saw all these like clips and videos because some people probably just see like the mainstream Reddit kind of posts and stuff. But like I'll get suggested to me like, you know, r/Columbus or r/Dublin, like some of these smaller ones. And dude, some of the photos on there you don't see on mainstream media or national news. But it's like it's egregious. It's like naked immigrants at bus stops, or like then you'll see a video of one like beating off behind a bush. It's like, what is this? And then I'm glad Taylor Hansen covered it too, because Springfield, it was the car insurance went up an insane amount. And it was because the 3 ways they're able to kind of discriminate in insurance is like age, gender, and location. It's like those are the only things you're able to discriminate about. And so Springfield, Ohio, the car insurance companies got together and they marked Springfield, like they circled around the area, and they're like, this area is the top risk area in the nation to drive. People's insurance went from like $80 a month to $480 a month. Like that will kill you, you know, economically. Like most people can't even afford like a $300 emergency fund. So imagine that getting dropped off in your lap.
Yeah, it's fucking unbelievable bullshit. We have that. They saying is Pennsylvania is Pittsburgh and Philly and Alabama in between, which is fairly accurate.
That's funny. I've never heard
So
that.
we're just now. Well, there was a couple things you said there that I think are all great. And so number one is it's the solution is to start local.
Right.
And that's the model I use is, the end goal is to conquer the world. And you first need to get control of yourself. Once you get yourself under control, then the surrounding family. Once you get the family under control, then the neighborhood, then the whatever. And then, so I had just quit when Trump lost in 2020. I stepped away for 2 years. I didn't step away from thinking about this. I just was like, making content is not helping. I've always autistically been interested in, what is the problem and what is the actual solution. So that occurred to me. And I did. I went and met the local Republicans, and then through that, all the local political people and stuff. And that's kind of where this studio came from. So it is possible to break through. I think that's one thing we made a mistake of as creators early on, is we sort of all settled into our own little hermetic little kingdoms in our living rooms or wherever we built our sets. But there's a huge this is what's going on with Fuentes too, by the way. There's a huge disconnect between like the regular people like us and the really wealthy people that actually call the shots on the right. However, I'm encouraged that so they're willing to talk to, and I was able to talk them into helping me and why this stuff is all important. But if I played them a Nick Fuentes video, their heads would explode right now. We got a long ways to go, but. Yeah. Anyway, so in Pennsylvania, this it's a substantial amount of electoral votes, and it's almost entirely a conservative state, other than these two major cities.
Right.
And of course, our governor right now is Josh Shapiro, Jewish guy, super corrupt, absolute piece of garbage. And so, the left has figured out, and I think Vivek is using a similar model for whatever faction he works for, but. You don't really need to convince if you can kind of control who's counting the votes, as Stalin said, I think, then it's irrelevant what the actual people that live there think.
Well, that's I think the biggest revelation I think I've had politically, maybe ever. Which is like
real.
It's who. It's like not what, it's not how, it's not why, it's not when, it's who. It's like who has the keys to the controls. That's what matters the most.
Well, I've been on that journey for a while now, and I still don't know.
Right.
But you're right. It's this fucking layer cake. Speaking of movies, I don't know if you ever seen that movie. Probably not. It's a good movie, but you have to, if you get any kind of influence or power, you have a choice to like live your life, make a pretty decent living, never get too controversial, and retire that way, and whatever. Or you can be genuinely interested. Like I got into all this to find the truth, which was me, which is not a fun life for most of it. It sucks a lot more to do it that way. I don't recommend it. But if you just have that fucking itch to know who's running this shit, you have to talk to the local political people. You have to break into these weird secret spheres of influence and conversation and meetings that are happening in your small town right now all over the country, that decisions get driven by the people who have power, and the people who have power have money, and if they have money, they're probably 20 years behind the times.
Right.
And you start talking to them like Nick Fuentes would, and they just eyes roll. That's not what I remember. You're some crazy person. And so there's humility required in this breakthrough to talk to these, again, like the people that are funding like Charlie Kirk and Turning Point USA. And I think that these crazy faceless billionaires actually do kind of care. Talking about like the few surviving World War II veterans or those kind of people, or these guys that came back from that and were very huge pro-America. Of course, they believe it's racist to be pro-white, but they do care, and this shit has turned out in a way they did not expect or want. And they've started, they just like to throw money at things to solve problems, and there's this whole grifter class between people like you and me and them that are scooping up all this money, and that's why you get all these stupid Charlie Kirk takes. They have these organized money-making systems like Turning Point USA.
Right.
And so the only way through that is to just fucking hack at it for 5 years till you can figure out who some particular person is that runs some think tank who's 900 years old, and then tracking them, go to their fucking house if you have to, and then try to patiently talk to them about, Israel, whatever else it is you want to talk about. But I think it does work. It just takes time. And I think these old 60, 70-year-old guys really want young guys to come talk to them. They just think they're better than us. That's, I think, kind of fair.
Agreed.
When I'm 70, I'm going to think I'm better than all you guys. I mean, what are you going to do? I'm going to be a massive asshole at 70. I already am at 40. So,
That's funny.
yeah, you talk about this, what is an American and what is American culture? I think we're all out there and we're just not talking to each other.
Well, and that's part of it.
and-
You know, the
And when we do, just quickly, and when we do, like, this is the difference, me and you talking now as equals. With most people, it becomes this dick measuring contest. Who has the best take? You know, there's a time and a place for that, but behind the scenes, people like us have to get together and talk without egos about what is the actual problem, what is the solution, what of my personal beliefs am I willing to sacrifice for someone like you to agree that you'll be on the same team as me,
agreed.
right? And so we haven't even sat down and hashed those things out. Like, what's a deal break? If we're going to be in the same army, you and me, you know, how do you feel about what is a Christian? How do you feel about abortion? How do you feel about all these different things?
Right.
We got to talk about that stuff before we can take a step beyond that.
No, 100%. And one sec, 'cause I'd like to respond to that too. Let me get this other super chat in again from Bible Book Club and put on screen. He says, if you can hold your municipality accountable, then you can possibly hold your county accountable, then the state, and so on. And thank you very much. Another $20 donation. Thank you very much, brother. Don't spend your whole paycheck in one place. I do appreciate it, though. Thank you very much.
You're a bad content creator. You got to encourage that. You just say, why isn't everybody else donating that amount?
See, I feel too guilty with stuff like that. And well, this is
that's what the rich guys do, though.
I know, right? But that's, again, I'm not doing this for money. I'm doing this because, like you, like I have, maybe there's just something wrong with me, right? But I have a serious intensity about me that I would not be content or satisfied doing anything else besides trying to figure out, like, literally what is going on. Like, that's all I want to know, right? It's like, I don't want to play a game. I want to watch football. I want to know who runs this, right? Why are these things happening? Why is it so coincidental? And on that note, there's a huge aspect of the paid sentiment aspect to all of this. And what you had said, right? Sometimes it's not even a dick measuring contest and it's still not good faith. It's two people agree to come on because they know they're both going to get paid whatever it is for their hourly rate by influenceable.com to get out their talking points and once again saturate the market with more of what this paid sentiment is. And I kind of had an idea with that too, which was, what if the same way that we make gambling advertisements, right? Like on X, you know, it's like they get community noted if they don't correctly label, like, this was paid promotion. We need to do that for influencers.
Steak or whatever, the fucking steak company does that all the time.
Yeah, we need to have in big gold letters every time, you know, Ben Shapiro or Mark Levin tweets, it says paid for by Israel. Like, it needs to be fat gold letters because people need to know.
Thinking about this the right way. That's, people don't understand this, but that part of the reason the enemy's propaganda is so effective is because of the scale on which it is repeated. And that's what I was just talking about. You can't watch a movie now without two dudes kissing in the first 30 minutes. Like, it just, even it has nothing to do with the movie. They fucking, that's their big gold letters, right?
Right.
It makes sure that when you drive down the fucking street, there's going to be a billboard with two dudes kissing. And when you fucking watch a YouTube video, there's going to be an ad that plays it. And I'm not just singling out gay dudes. It's all that kind of shit. You know what I mean? So
right. Sexuality in general.
They want to make sure you cannot escape the message. And you're 100% right. That has always been, that occurred to me a year into YouTubing and where all the weird music and fucking like memes started coming from rather than I made way more money just talking. Well, I always have. Like, if I need money, I make voiceover videos. But if I want to, it's fucking the movie Inception as much as pop culture references are retarded. But
yeah.
That's what a meme can do, is it fucking gets into your subconscious and spreads like that. But you're right, that a coordinated effort by the right to make sure that every time you see a fucking tranny, like this fucking church shooter just happened, there's some same color, same words, same message, some little logo, whatever. But just so that the association becomes permanent. Now, are you now sort of cynically social engineering people, or have you stared long enough into the abyss that it's stared back into you, and now you're one of the bad guys?
Right.
Maybe we are, and so I've sort of accepted as myself that I want to be a tool or a vessel for. I do believe in very strongly that there's some kind of intelligent force. It's about the limits of which I'll talk about religion these days, but like it's there. I feel it. It talks. It has instructions and plans and whatever. And you're just this cog in its machine if it reaches out to you and you do what it tells you, and then your life gets horrible and you get crucified. So whatever,
I
make
feel
your own decision on that.
kind of like how people fall into simulation theory.
Yeah, well, so I do use that Nietzsche quote a lot, or Nietzsche, most people call him, but that whole full quote is, "Be careful when fighting monsters, lest you become a monster. Stare long enough into the abyss stares also back into you."
Right.
So that's I think where the good people and the Christian people on the right, they've reached this threshold that they can sense is there, and they know beyond this point, I'm going to have to become something that I don't think is good. Like, again, as a father, would you kill someone to protect your own child? I would. I wouldn't feel bad about it.
Right.
But we've been conditioned to feel bad about it. And so I think on the one hand, yeah, I would agree. I don't think what we need to become is not godlike. I think it's part of the plan. But I can see how it's a very scary thing to consider, being somebody like would you do the violent things or the tricks? Would you play tricks? Would you lie to people? Would you lie to a foreigner that got them arrested and deported?
Yeah, right. These more like these ethical kind of questions.
Maybe you shouldn't. I find, you're a religious guy and a Christian guy. The one of the most interesting parts of the Bible to me is Jesus in the temple and the moneylenders.
Right.
So, if he can whip the shit out of people for being fake, I'm just trying to be like Jesus, bro.
Well, and here's the other element with that too. And also, I'm going to forget this as well.
Trying to be like him in every way.
Right. We have another massive super chat from Titan. Thank you very much. He just wrote, "Tix made me do it," with another huge $50 donation. Thank you very much. And I also just got another one, so I'll read that too. From Lord of the Ree again, he says, "Simulation theory is just creationism for people who don't want to admit God exists. It's a Sam Harris level cope for lazy people." And I think the same thing's true like with like Tim Pool and others who kind of promote that, where it's like kind of intelligent design, simulation theory all in one. But in that though,
go ahead. Sorry, I'm about to ramble. You talk.
Well, I was just going to respond to some of the things that you had said there. And I think you had mentioned it a little bit. You kind of implied it. When we're in the army, I need to know, what are your deal breakers, right? Who are the men to my left and who are the men to my right? Like
yes,
we
exactly.
we need to know these things. And it still blows me away. There's a lot of people who, if you ask them like, some kind of question like that, like the ethical question, would you lie about, just to get this person deported because they're not supposed to be here? Would you kind of break a white lie to do it to a good thing? A lot of people go, "Oh, I've never thought about that before." And then you ask them more and more and they go, "Oh, I never thought about that before." And it's like, what do you think about? And then you realize there's a whole class of people who like don't ever have any secondary level of thinking. They see the headline, they move on, headline, move on. And it's like, how do you live like that? I don't get it. And that brings me to the big question, which is, in your opinion, with all of that told together, what is an American? And to move forward, we have to have a foundational, definitive definition of what is an American, because otherwise everything falls apart. If you go, "We're fighting for America," and I go, "What is that?" and you have the same reaction when Matt Walsh asks, "What is a woman?" we're not going anywhere. The movement kind of halts right there. So we have to have definitive kind of parameters that people can understand, recognize, and get behind.
Yeah, I'll kind of half answer that question, but I think so. You have, I'll get to the point here, I promise. Einstein had special and general relativity, and special anything in physics is like a special case of this general model. So you have this general model that fits everything, in which there are these special cases.
Yeah.
What is an American, I would say, is a special subset of the question, what is the problem? So to me, all those questions that nobody answers and talks about all can be reduced to what is the problem? I mean, so what is an American is a version of that question. That's kind of what I'm getting at when I talk about, like, again, so what is it? What is Japanese? What is Chinese? There's many, you answer any of those questions, you're also answering what is American?
Right.
What is Australian? What is fucking Martian? You know, things like that. And so this is where our whole weird complex legal system came from, which I think is a good thing in a sense of, but you need to have these clearly defined terms of art, a term of art, right? That's American is a term of art in a legal sense. And so I agree with you. There needs to be some hard definition. And when you have hard definitions, the problem you get is that you get these arbitrary cutoff points. Let me just give an example. It'll make more sense. But so I don't think your family has had to have lived in the physical geographical boundaries of the United States for, say, 400 years in order to be an American. I think I could leave, go to England, come back, and I'd still be a fucking American. You know what I mean? I could go live in fucking China for a year. I'd come back. I'd still be an American. I could go have kids in China, come back, and they would be American. And so I know Zeb Boykin, our mutual friend, has this thing about being heritage American, of being here. Your family's been here for a certain amount of time. I do agree that that's important. I don't know that I agree it's fundamental, and I can see anecdotal examples that poke holes in that argument by, like, well, what if an Irish guy who believes everything we believe comes, joins the American military, kills a bunch of foreigners. In one generation, his kids lose their accents. They grow up in an American town. They're exceedingly American at that point. Wouldn't you want that guy to be in your army? I would say, yeah, I probably would.
Right.
And so you're approaching this from two different directions. That's approaching it from this very small scale, individual basis. If we had the time and resources to judge every single person like that, then I'd say what an American is primarily ideological, not physical. However, we also live in reality, and there aren't resources to vet every single person like that. So that's the cell membrane that you get artificially with an island. We need to build something like that. That answering that question is putting ourselves on more and more of an island in a good way, right? And so we haven't defined what that is, but I don't really I personally try not to give answers to things that I don't know that there's a good answer for yet. And so I think I would say, just like what is the problem, what is an American is as yet undetermined. And you say, well, I'm asking you specifically, what do you think it is?
Well,
I think it's whatever the majority of us, whatever we can agree on that allows us to take back of control of our country, that is what an American is. And we haven't figured that out yet.
yeah.
It is something. There's something out there. You know, Michelangelo, that fucking Italian homo, like to carve statues and shit. No, he's an incredible artist. I mean, insane.
Right. I was going to say, what?
He had this belief that, and he got a block of raw marble that inside of it existed this statue already. And he was not carving a statue, he was liberating the existing statue from this raw material. That within this block was some statue, and his job was to liberate it. That's how I would like to approach that question, and the more, in my opinion, general question, what is the problem? But any version of that.
Yeah.
Yes, it's really in there. There's some masterpiece work of art, and we should approach it by removing the trashy pieces around it until what remains is a beautiful, timeless, eternal sculpture of truth. Something like that. And so, again, I don't, that's just the way I haven't come to answers on any of this. So it's a shitty answer, I know, but
no, it's still
I
an
do
answer.
think it matters how long your family has physically been here. However, like, does it matter if they've been physically in one of the original 13 colonies? Is it okay if they were in Texas when it was a part of Mexico? Does that matter? To me, that shit doesn't matter. But if it matters to you or someone else, like, I get it. The longer you want to go back in time, the number of Americans you're going to get is going to go like this. There's a great movie called Gangs of New York that is about two groups of white dudes kicking the shit out of each other in New York. The natives, right, the British, and then the wave of Irish immigrants mostly. who are now, we'd consider both of those people founding stock of America. So where, and there's the Italian wave, and like, where do you want to draw that line? At what point is your army end up with 3 fucking people because you're the only 3 whose family came here on the fucking Mayflower?
Yeah,
because
you keep kicking people out.
Like,
Yeah.
That's really cool. And me personally, you were on the Mayflower. Yeah, you're more American than me, but like, what does that mean?
Right. Well, I guess, let me read these real quick. I got 2 super chats, one from Second Coins. It says, coins for the boys. Thank you very much, Second. And then I got another one here. Yeah, from Donnie. Donnie says that Zeb Boykin isn't a real person. He is actually just a shaved gorilla with a fake mustache, for your information. Thank you for that. I appreciate it.
And confirm.
I think there are 2 ways you can approach this.
Let's make this conversational. Yeah, give me your honest thoughts.
So my honest thoughts are, I think there's 3 main ways you can answer this question. I think one is you can answer it in the most simple, imperialistic, animalistic way, which is in the heat of a moment, when a bomb goes off, I look around the room, my brain already knows who's an American and who's not. I didn't have to think about it. I think that's an answer. I think there's a part of an identification just on the onset, like you had mentioned in Japan, right? If I'm in Japan, I'll know another American when I see one. There's something kind of like,
that's an interesting thought. Yeah, okay.
Intuitive to it. The other 2 angles would be, one, there is a traditional angle, which is if you were to combine that with the Naturalization Act of 1790, I think it's pretty clear. It's WASPs, it is white Europeans, right? I think that kind of gives us a bit more set. And I think that also answers the Christianity aspect question of it too, which I am somebody who leans Orthodox, but the traditional argument leans in favor of Protestantism, which is that was the leading kind of sect of Christianity that birthed America.
By majority, for sure, yeah.
Yeah, and and then I do think there's a third, which is if we were a bit more of a kind of like a neoliberal take, but you were to pair that with like Thomas Aquinas, which is you're an American as long as you have been here for longer than 3 generations, which means no first-gen immigrant is an American, no second-gen immigrant's American. It is the children of the children that is an American. But
I like that. I think that just quickly fits in. Like if I were to move to Japan, I don't know why I just like picking that one, but I would never be Japanese, ever.
Right.
And I kind of agree. I don't know that my kids would ever be fully Japanese, although they'd probably feel it, but they wouldn't be accepted that way. But yeah, so I'm on board with that. I think that makes a lot of sense. But it can help make this question easier if instead of saying American, you say Japan or China or Germany.
Right.
If I move to Germany, when am I German? It's the same question, but it's easier to answer, I think.
Exactly.
So anyway, go ahead.
No, yeah, well, and I guess the only but I would add to that was, Thomas Aquinas was writing a lot of this stuff in an era where like assimilation wasn't questioned. Countries wouldn't tolerate it if you didn't assimilate. And so I think that has to be added. And so I think you can't just generally say 3rd generations, because we already have a lot of 3rd generation immigrants here. And I still wouldn't classify them as American. It's because
right. And that's so like say you get a family that's 3rd generation, and it's like they're it's not like they're spies or anything, but like they still might not. But then you get families that come here that are bad actors.
Right.
And they're actively they're going to consciously not assimilate. They'll create a country within a country,
exactly.
Wink, wink, nudge. So how do you account for that? Like, how do you account for liars? Because there's people that have been here for more than 3 generations that are a huge part of the problem we're having. And I would say they're not American, but they've lived here probably longer than my family has. If you look back at, the forces behind the Confederacy and things like that. Federal Reserve.
Well, it's a tough thing to tackle.
I don't want my definition to make those people American. See what I'm saying? Like, it's a really tricky question to answer.
Right. And that, well, you had said it earlier, right? Like, who are the people who make it over here? It's the wealthy, and largely, if it's not the wealthy elites, just like in the kind of financial or like the entertainment sectors, it's more than likely children of government officials of that country that come over. And so there is that automatic conflict of interest. And that kind of moves into a bit more of like the dual loyalty thing aspect as well, too. I think that's got to be explored. I think dual loyalty's got to get done.
That would be a huge part of it for me, actually. Not to just repeat it. I'm just kidding. I'm an interrupter. I can't
You're
help
fine.
Yeah, I would say an American does not have a second citizenship anywhere. That would be an easy part for me to add. That was like, again, I think we should write this shit down. But
Right.
that one, like, I think everybody would agree on that. And that's what you find when you actually talk about this without needing to be right or needing to measure dicks. Yeah, that was your idea. I'd just as soon, like, a scientist would have fucking called that the Atlas Thugged theorem.
No.
So fuck it, let's call it yours. 100 years, nobody will remember your
No.
name. They'll just start calling it the rules. Whatever, get a little glory out of it. But yeah, I know I'm making a big deal out of a small point, but like that
You're good.
is an axiom. That's a great one. It's measurable, it's testable. We can ask each other that. We can talk about it. We can, can you have another citizenship more than American? Yes or no?
Right.
Yeah, if you say yes, you're not on my team. Bang. That's a useful tool.
Right. And I think pragmatically, when I think about how is this going to have to happen, I think that we'll get a lot better answers, because I think if we were to get close to levers of power, someone's got to put a moratorium on immigration for an extended period of time. Whether it's 5 years.
I'm getting autistic here, but just to even more when you ask, this is how you know you're onto something that is really useful and true. So can a Japanese person have a dual citizenship and still be Japanese? I would also say no. So you have this formula.
Yeah.
Your answer, whether you say America, Japan, German, whatever, Norwegian, fish. Can a fish be a citizen of Earth, of the land? No.
Right.
So now you have this concept that is not just American, but a nationality cannot be a different nationality. Now you're using actual rigorous science. You're doing logic. Right?
I try. But yeah, you're right.
That's important.
A general principle.
It's like in math, if you get an answer and you're not sure it's right, you plug it back in, x equals 3. Well, let me put it back in and make sure that I still get the right answer. Oh, I did? Then it's okay. So your x is the name of the country. And if you plug in any country and still get the same answer, you're on to something that's very profound, in my opinion.
Right.
So yeah, the not a citizen of anywhere else, this is why I the time limit thing sounds great. 3 generations, 4 generations, 5 generations, but as you're saying yourself, you could have a 10 generation family that's actively trying to destroy us, and there are.
Right.
And you could have a brand new guy who might be the best sniper in your military who believes So there has to be some behavioral and ideological cultural component beyond just physically being here. At the same time, there is some physically being here component of it.
Right.
So it's a question of the physically being part here seems to be a question of, well, how long have you been here? We need to figure that number out.
Right. Well, it's because there used to be so many robust systems.
You said it very poetically, just quickly, and then I promise I'll shut the fuck up.
You're good.
But like, if a bomb goes off, you know who is American. I think that's actually great, because I think Americans probably do uniquely have a response to bombs going off, like a very cool way that other cultures don't. We're always the fucking tourists that get in fights on the French subways with people stabbing people.
Right.
It's always an American. That might not be a good thing even, but it is very American.
Right.
And so again, there's something in this stupid block of marble that's there, and it's on the tip of our tongues. But if we're gonna do it, we want to do it right. Like, you got to be very careful with these amounts of time and amounts of generations. And shit, you could be here for 20 generations and have that one asshole offshoot, nephew that is a traitor. Happens all the time.
Right.
That guy American, is Benedict Arnold American?
Well, what I was going to say,
he was for a while, and then he wasn't. So what does that mean?
Right. Well, and that's what I was getting ready to say, which is,
can you be American and then lose that quality without dying? That's an interesting question. Is Edward Snowden American? That kind of thing.
That's an interesting one. Well, I guess what I was going to say, respond to the larger point at hand, is that we don't have, like, similar with the assimilation, we don't have all of these robust mechanisms like social shaming, just all these kind of like basic, social aspects and mechanisms that were meant to kind of operate as pseudo, like kind of like quasi-legal apparatuses, where it's like, it's not a court of law, but it's like, if everybody in your church doesn't like you, it's like, you're more than likely probably going to change your behavior or you'll go elsewhere. But those kind of things are gone. And it's in the name of like tolerance too, largely a lot of it, like what you said earlier about Christianity, when they kind of like, they cucked it and they're like, yeah, Christianity is about not judging anybody and we tolerate everything and, you know, let your children be raped and all that jazz. That's where I think that we have to, the culture war can't be forgotten. And I think that is largely the element of it, which is the influencers have to be that kind of shaming utility. And that's where I think the Groypers are doing really well, which is when you see these posts that are like the most retarded Malaysian slop you've seen from Ian Miles Chong, he's getting annihilated by Groypers. And that works. And that makes him not want to post more. Or maybe you saw the one about Captive Dreamer, where he made one video and then got, you know, annihilated by Nick, and he's not made the video since because he's like ashamed of his forehead now. I think those things need to be present before you can do anything pragmatically, like legally, right? Because obviously we make murder illegal, but just because it's illegal, it doesn't matter to all of these Mexicans.
People still get murdered, right?
Exactly,
yeah, that's
right.
it. There is no system that's ever going to be perfect, and I think our founding fathers got as close as they could. People overlook, though, that they had baked in that, you know, at a certain point, your government no longer is in pursuit of your happiness, but starts a long train of usurpations, et cetera,
Right.
then it is your duty to kick the shit out of them and put a new government in place that you think is better. Like doesn't really get taught the way it should be, but they did that. That's exactly what these guys sat down and did in the late 1700s. Is they did computer science. They tried to write a program using the language available to them, and they said, we want to write an algorithm that prevents tyranny and preserves freedom. And they took it so seriously that they actually realized it's impossible. And that's why that part is in there. No matter what happens, sooner or later, this is all going to go to shit. That's just how things work.
Right.
And it's your duty. Because again, the government is on, they scientifically, like a guy writing code wrote this shit out in no uncertain terms. What is a person and what is a government? Like, what is I mean, again, that's a tricky question people get wrong all the time. What is a government? It's fucking people.
Yeah.
People. It's not something that's real. It's the combined effects of people with authority and their decisions that they make. And so again, you have this large group of people, call them Americans, whatever country, and then you just by necessity of you can't make decisions in a room of 300 million people, you got to elect people that can all eventually fit in one fucking room. You need to get it down to that number of people that are deciding things. If those people start deciding things, they're there to represent everyone else. If they stop doing that, kill them and make something better. This was all figured out 200 plus years ago. I mean, it's an incredible work of science, the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence and all that. They thought about everything. It would have been nice if in the Second Amendment they would have been a little more specific, but you can have tanks, shit like that.
Nuclear bombs.
But that, in my opinion, is what they tried to do. And so I don't think we need to reinvent the wheel. We just need to use that same process. Is okay, if the fundamental principle here is life, liberty, pursuit of happiness, then we have to accept certain things. There's got to be a freedom of religion. We got to accept people that might worship a little bit differently than us. Well, now we have these 200 years of experience of like, maybe we can refine, maybe we don't need the monkey god.
Right.
Maybe we don't need the sun,
right.
the sun pillars. Maybe we don't need fucking Yakub. Or what's
Dude, that meme gets me all the time.
Xenu. What's the fucking Scientology one? Xenu? Whatever that guy's name is, that alien. Anyway,
I have no idea. All I know, Tom Cruise is
it was an exercise in computer science and logic that they did, and then they wrote it down in words. But they came to all these conclusions, and they were very spiritual guys. But they had their great breakthrough in a scientific sense was all these systems of men are limited fundamentally by the unit the system's made of, which is men, which is people, which are not perfect. So we're not transistors. We don't spit out ones and zeros, true, false.
Right.
And you just can't make a fucking system that deals with that. There has to be decent people. If you have bad actors, there's no system that can account for it. So again, you can't define what an American is if somebody exists who would come here, live here for 5 generations just to subvert your country.
Right.
And That's kind of what's the underlying mechanism going on there, if that makes any sense. I don't know.
No, definitely does. Let me get this another super chat in here. This is from, again, Bible Book Club, giving me his entire paycheck this week. He says, "Is an American a citizen? There are many American citizens that don't hold American values. It's a tough subject."
Yeah, I mean, that's the defining what a citizen is the attempt to answer the question, what is an American? I mean, there needs to be a legal definition like that, but you can see how easily twisted that can get. Like, okay, well, you have to be born in America. Sounds great. Sounds great. Well, you see how that gets twisted. Now, anchor babies. So, okay, whoops, I needed a better language. I didn't think that through.
Right.
My understanding of the original definition is white property owning Americans. Basically, they were saying if you have a stake in the game, if you have skin in the game, you deserve a vote.
Exactly.
You don't have skin in the game. You could be here for 1,000 generations, but if you don't own property that these laws affect, and if you don't have a business and you're not participating and you're not putting in, you don't fucking vote.
And then pair that with the fact that the average person has zero historical idea of what this country was, very, very tiny, small, VeggieTale version of how this country was born. And that only aids the problem. And the way I see it the most, like you had mentioned, like the freedom of religion, and I think that's one of the biggest ones. I think it's kind of wild that you can have all these quotes, largely the one from John Adams, which is, the Constitution's essentially just a piece of paper to any peoples that's not morally and religious. And
good point. That kind of thing.
But that's like, but it's not in the Constitution because it's like the fish in the water problem, which is like they couldn't foresee 200 years from now that Americans would possibly let all these Islamic and Hindu and all these other influences kind of just come in.
Well, there's way more destructive religions than that. People just don't think of them as religions, like the LBGTQ plus the XYZ 1, 2, 3. That's a religion.
Right.
As rituals, as beliefs, you violate their beliefs, they'll kill you just like a Muslim would, like they're violent.
Right.
When you challenge their third world religion. You have this interesting thing in the United States, the separation of church and state. But I think the kind of unspoken secret that the founding fathers never said, because you can't, because it creates all these problems, is there is no such thing.
Yeah.
You cannot separate church and state. The state is a church. It's this codified legal system of things that we've mutually agreed upon that these things are true. But it's like, okay, based on what logic? Well, we hold these truths to be self-evident. There is no, that's where you get into this cyclical form of like you can't is God real? Write me a mathematical proof. It's a nonsensical question. It's like you can't prove the larger system from within it. You just lack the ability to think that way.
Right.
It's literally language itself breaks down when you start to, which is why I don't know what to fucking say. But there's God is one of these things where, like, again, it's a fish trying to describe its fishbowl without leaving the water or understanding how any of it works. You just lack the tools to even be able to comprehend it. And that's why you get these sayings that seem kind of stupid, cop-out, like you can't describe God. He's ineffable. He doesn't look like anything, but he is there, et cetera, et cetera.
Right.
And that's, I realize there's this pattern. When you reach a paradox is when you're at the truth. It's a linguistic, can God make a stone so heavy that he can't lift it?
Right.
Sounds kind of clever if you're a retarded atheist or something, but it's just that language breaks down, because yes and yes is the answer, but it breaks down logic. And so that's where faith comes in. You just got to extend. So that's what the state is. The state is just this social contract where the majority of people agree, like, we're just going to hold these certain truths to be self-evident.
Right. And that's, again, the fish in the water problem. With them, the average 22, 23-year-old was a founding father revolutionary leading his wife and children and thinking deeply about these things. Like, it blows me away, like, how far removed, like, I would probably have to be around 34 or 35 years old to probably have the maturity mindset where the founding fathers were, at 21 years old. And it's just like,
maybe we're a little older than that. Some of them were.
Right.
But Thomas Jefferson was in the early 30s, so very young by today's standards, for sure.
Right.
Yeah,
and I guess that's kind of like on another note too, a lot of the anger I do have when I kind of look at these things is I just kind of look at all the men who are older than me that just kind of like let, for lack of better words, kind of allowed things to happen, or at least didn't fight things well enough that I would have, wanted them to. And this goes to
That's
like,
Go ahead, sorry.
no, you're fine with Christianity as well too. Like, you obviously have all these arguments, right, with like, separation of church and state. But I think if you just zoom out for 2 seconds, you look at America and it's like, oh, it's clearly this is a Christian nation. That's like, how could you look at anything America from the 1700s through even halfway through the 1800s and go, this is anything but a Christian nation? It clearly was set up and designed that way.
The globalist mindset we're fighting is another logical model for behavior that's actually, like, I guess you'd say, correct or accurate, or it's not invalid, and that is might makes right. That is kind
power.
of the moral framework that the rest of the world, other than white Christian Americans, work off of. And it's actually that kind of framework I think we need to incorporate a little more into our own way of fighting the war, because if we're playing by these rules that our enemies don't play by. Like we're the fucking, knights that line up in a straight line and then charge and let them know we're coming. And they're like, "Oh, okay, well, we'll just shoot you all." They're the fucking retarded English longbow men that that are just regular dudes just fucking raining
just chilling
arrows
on the
on
wall.
them because they just want to win. Like they don't care about honor or glory or any other long-term problems they're going to create.
Right. Well,
So
that
that if you boil the world into a nut, the world culture and ideology, it is not Christian. It's might makes right. And the problem is that's true. Like Christianity or not, it is true. If you're able to not feel shame or guilt or morally bad, or if you just think in terms of in-group and out-group, that's how everyone else is thinking other than white Americans up until very recently.
right.
We all thought everybody was in our in-group. Yeah, we're all buddies, kumbaya. And then, whoops, that wasn't true, and now we're all dead.
Right.
And so some of the responsibility and blame is ours. Like we're a little autistic and a little naive and a little too trusting, and a little too domesticated, too friendly. And yet we can get up in arms with each other over who's the right kind of Christian. So I think we currently everything's backwards, but we're going in the right direction. And so like, I don't consider myself a Catholic, but let's say I did. I would throw that aside. I'd throw that label in the trash if it meant we just unified under the term Christian, whatever that means.
Right. And that's why I say no more brother wars in the Discord. That's one of the rules here.
100%.
It's like, it's just, there's a place to have these kind of debates, but it pales heavily in comparison with like what the pragmatic kind of aims are of like what we're trying to set out to do. And on that note,
yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
well, I was just going to add there too, like you get a lot, and I think a lot of what holds back, Christianity, and I always kind of do this with the analogy of like the woman in the flood, but I'll use another one for this one. A lot of Christians kind of basically go, God wins in the end, and that means I can just ignore everything and God will handle it, and I just don't have to pay attention. It's like, okay, well, set your baby on the diaper table and walk away. Why wouldn't you do that? It's because there's like legitimate temporal consequences that will happen if you don't do these things, and kind of falls under the idea that God will steer, but you must row. And there is this like large kind of, and it kind of, also aligns with the evangelical crowd, which also is bad for a number of reasons. This idea that, just do nothing and expect that things will get better. We're on that tail end of like, that's clearly not happening. It's getting much, much worse. We have to start bailing water.
Saying, God helps those who help themselves. And I try to abide by that.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're 100% right. That's in my opinion brainwashing. And I mean, maybe those people are right. Maybe we are supposed to just get raptured away in a blue beam and leave the world. We should self-immolate like that Buddhist monk. Just set ourselves on fire, and you guys deal with all the bullshit. But
right.
I don't know that I really believe that. To me, if anything, if I'm sure of, is that there is a God of there's some intelligent living force. I think the universe itself is actually alive. That is the yin yang underlying all of this is what's alive and what isn't.
Yeah.
And like it's not quite that simple. Like an NPC, I would say, is not alive. I mean, they're physically, literally alive in our world, affecting us, but they're just not this life force of actual, people use all different terms. Somebody who thinks for themselves, an independent thinker, an individual, whatever.
Well, on that note, let me ask you this real quick, because
Yeah.
I'm sure you know what the inner monologue is, right? And that kind of like recent discovery of like
Yeah.
only some people
Going
have
on
them.
right now in my head. Fucking bastard, shut the fuck up.
I was gonna say, what in a utilitarian society, I think that information would lend itself to people losing rights if they didn't have an inner monologue. Like you would lose and get restricted rights because it's like
I gotta hit you with this fucking book, man. I'm sorry, I'm gonna do it, but I made Zeb read it. I don't think he finished it. But The Origin of Consciousness and the Breakdown of the Bicameral Mind. You ever heard of this book?
Origin of Consciousness and the Bicameral Mind.
It's The Origin of Consciousness in the Breakdown of the Bicameral Mind.
Writing it down.
And so I'll try to give a super quick summary of it. But ancient societies, usually non-white ones, and so like I'll just pick one for the sake of making this quick, like the Aztecs or the Mayas.
Yeah, very moral societies.
They would put up these statues of people or even just vertical stone pillars that had these very lifelike eyeballs in them. And the theory this book puts out is that humans were, up until very, very recently, like maybe Greece or Rome, we were writing books. They wrote the Iliad and Odyssey and all that stuff, like a lot of very human-like behaviors, but we weren't actually truly conscious. We were more like ants. And so you see this in all these different cultures where there'd be this king figure, and then his orders would be reinforced with these statues with eyeballs. And when the Spanish invaded the Aztecs, it might have been the Maya, so I might be having this backwards, but whatever. The Europeans first encountered New World civilizations that did this.
Yeah.
The natives would tell the Spanish that these statues would literally talk to them. They would talk to them and give them commands, and they'd leave food out for the statues. That shit you still see today. You're like, why are you leaving a fucking chicken wing out for a statue? It's not going to eat it.
Right.
Because they really fucking thought it was alive. And so humans, the theory goes, had this inner monologue that was like, we're really two consciousnesses, and there was a voice in your head that made you take action. In fact, a big part of this theory is that that's what modern day schizophrenia is malformed versions of how these people used to be. But I don't know about you. I certainly have a voice that talks to me in my head all the time. But
oh yeah.
I also have this conscious entity. So the kind of Freud maybe talked about this a little bit. You have the id, the ego, and the superego.
Right.
Your id is your impulses. That would be like the voice you're hearing from the statue. That's your id. And then you have your ego. That's your conscious self. And then your superego is sort of the union of those two things. But again, you see this. So ancient Egypt, same pattern. You had something called a Ka, K-A. When they buried a pharaoh, they would bury his body, but then they'd also bury shit for his Ka, his spirit force, his equal partner or whatever.
Interesting.
And then somewhere along the line, so this book says, is that bicameral mind, these two chambers with two different voices that talk to each other, broke down and people became fully conscious. And the conscious civilizations, which were European, just dominated. So the classic, like, how did the conquistadors destroy the Aztecs in Tenochtitlan with like 200 guys? They took out the leader and they became the inner monologue for all of the Aztecs. It was like overnight. They just, and same with the Incas, I think. It was just like, we killed this guy, we're now your inner monologue. And they were all just like, all right, what do you want us to do? They were like ants. And so you do see that pattern, which is really interesting. I do think that, yeah, I actually think there's many different species of humans walking the earth right now, and there have been for a long time. But maybe the battle of God versus Satan is really the battle of consciousness versus people that are just designed to take orders from any outside voice. And so that's what the television has become. So we don't have statues with eyeballs anymore telling us what to do. Yes, we fucking do. Probably more than ever. Right? Always putting these fucking ideas into your head.
Yeah.
Always with this. The television is an extension of the king, so to speak. It's like, what does the king want you to say? What's the propaganda? Let's put it on the television.
Right. It's all
And
the
what's even-
peripheral
it's even-
saturation.
Oh, so now it's like you used to walk by this statue and you'd hear a voice that was the king's voice, and it'd be like, "Hey, don't be a faggot." Like, oh shit, all right, I'm not going to do that.
Right.
Well, now it's happening constantly. You're doing, and you've been trained to do it to yourself with your fucking, like, it's a self-policing system.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I think the conscious people and people that become content creators, I think, have to be conscious. So you maybe understand this, but it's like
That's
this
funny.
tiny minority of conscious people versus this huge 90% or 80% group of fucking retards that will just kind of do what you tell them. So what's really going on is you have 5% of good smart people and 5% evil smart people. The evil ones are willing to do all this fucked up shit. They wield the herd against us.
Right.
And we're like, we're too noble to use propaganda, and we don't want to be someone else's inner monologue, which I agree with. I don't want to fucking tell people what to do. Like, that rings true to me on an individual level. But
Right.
that part of the burden of being an adult and a man and having a country and what is an American is, it's just like being a farmer. You got to slaughter animals for food. It's not fun. You don't enjoy killing them.
Right.
But there's just certain, you pull up a weed, do you fucking cry for the poor dead weed? Like, no. Like, so there's a certain level. It gets a little harder with an animal, and then
Right.
I don't know, you get to a fucking puppy and it's like really hard.
Right.
But,
Yeah.
you know, it's good that you're a normal person. Congratulations. You're not a psycho, but you gotta fucking pull weeds and you gotta slaughter animals. And if the reality of the situation is that there's this 5 million smart evil people versus 5 million smart decent people, those cows out there running around making everything. I mean, that's a tricky. What do you do?
Right.
You go in the temple? Do you flip over their tables? Do you whip them a little bit? Fucking little cow ass bitch. Fuck out of here.
Right. Well, this is
Or do are you, I don't know, which Jesus are you? Because there's a couple different ones in the New Testament,
well, this is like kind of like the ensouled versus unensouled kind of thing, right? Which is like some people are ensouled and some aren't. I think that kind of goes even a little bit to more like the Calvinist kind of argument, which is like
I would
limited
say
soul
that
theory
you're
and things like
talking
that.
about the same thing.
Yeah.
Those are people using different words to talk about the same thing that they've noticed.
Right. So it's clear the concept's been around for a while. And what's crazy is I think Joe Rogan, he pushes, what is it? It's like the stoned ape theory, right? Which is consciousness was born out of a certain sect of hominids who were having to eat, I always say it wrong, but basically like the mushrooms that make you trip. And it was them eating. Yeah. Yeah. And they started tripping and they gained consciousness. And like, that was kind of like the stoned ape theory. You also have the fire and meat theory, which is that there is a period of time that happens in a very short scale where I think it's the hominid brain. The hominid brain grows almost like 300% in size at one specific point of time. And the way it kind of lines up with anthropology is that would have been the same time that fire would have been discovered, leading scientists to think that it would have been them cooking their food, which opens up a lot more kind of nutrients and different kind of enzymes and hormones that's like that's inactive in raw meat. And they think that was like this big surge that, kind of grew their brain and probably led to consciousness as well. It is a tough question.
Yeah, I think you could go down that road forever and not. I mean, it's very interesting, and I hope some scientist figures it out 1,000 years from now. Even things like that, we're just starting to realize how many neurons there are in your digestive system, like a shit ton. You have brain cells in your.
Right.
Nobody knows how many of them work. Certainly seems logical that higher quality food would lead to better brain growth, and I think there's some provable stuff. I mean, fat is incredible for your brain, because you see why we had the whole no-fat diet when we were kids, because it's super good for making you smart.
Right.
And meat is good for you. That might just be because of fat, though. It's hard to say, but you see it. If you look at older like precursors to Homo sapiens, their jaws were much more protruding and dog-like, and
right,
kind of how a chimp's mouth is or a
because they
gorilla's
had to
mouth
reach
is.
for their food. Yeah.
There's this evolutionary, you don't use it, you lose it. And so we stopped using our mouths as tools, and now they've sucked back into our faces. Looks good to us, but it's extremely weird compared to most other animals.
Right.
They usually
Not helpful in the wild.
start using these things, and then you stop using this, and so it sucks back in. But yeah, I think it's many different things like that. There's certainly a certain kind of nutrition that needs to happen, and that might increase your brain. And
Right. Well, I guess
why this has happened with I think what's wild to me is how two Europe I can stand next to another European person with very similar genetics to myself, and they can be an NPC. Like,
right.
what happened there? Fucking wild. I don't
Right.
know.
Well, and that's
I
why
just
I get
the
concerned.
consciousness and God are overlapped. You feel it or you don't. Like I don't know that you can teach it. Sorry, go ahead.
Right. No, well, there's a bit of that too, because I kind of get a little bit of that from like Ian Crossland, right? Like the vibrational energy, and there are times where I feel that, like and it's hard to explain, like deja vu. There's like weird moments where you can kind of feel, where you feel someone's energy, and it's kind of a hard way to articulate it. But I guess my fear
That's
is
getting to
though,
that point where it's something that words are not meant to describe, like we were just talking about. That's
exactly, right,
that kind of thing.
or maybe it's just a matter of like we're still like at a certain level of intellect or like intelligence overall that like we just haven't even begun to even understand some of these other principles. And that's kind of the way I think AI is going to look at us, the same way we look at weeds. It's not going to care. Like it's going to be like, these things are such of lower intelligence. It's like, we don't care. It's alive, sure, but like how useful is it in the overall? That's kind of like how AI is going to look at it. And I guess I'm kind of fearful of, as we seemingly push towards more globalistic and more kind of utilitarian, kind of largely acceptive normative ideals, it makes me think there is probably somewhere down the line where AI may begin, probably at first sneakily, separating humans to like, this one NPC, NPC, NPC.
Yeah.
This one's a player character. Okay, this one's doing things we didn't calculate. Okay, NPC, NPC. And it might start to break humans down like that. And that also kind of goes in the same way with what is an American, which is, I am waiting for when Palantir announces that they are launching a full-scale operation to help with deportations, and you're going to have to sign up with your photo ID and give it all your biometric information. Forgive me. And that's what I'm kind of fearful of, is like all of this clearly leads to one direction, and time always moves, right? I think that's the one thing that you can hang your hat on, is things will change, time always moves. And that implies that there is going to be destinations you will hit along the way. And I think that's one of the main things that I am largely fearful of. We are getting short on time. One thing I wanted to actually mention to you about going back to culture, two things actually. The first thing I would say would be I made a mini documentary about Project Esther. It was like one of my first
I was watching a little bit of it.
What's that?
I said I was watching it a little bit.
Oh, you did? Oh, awesome. I appreciate it.
Dude,
I wanted to kind of like start doing a bit more of like that. And it was cool because I got really good feedback. One of the guys who actually was like the lead producer for Died Suddenly, which is the one about COVID, the vaccinations, which I don't even know where you can find it, but I know it was a big success. They reached out to me and said, let's talk to you privately. And I kind of immediately was like, hey, I'm brand new here. Kind of give me a second to like get my feet wet a little bit. I don't know if I want to sign up to anything. But I kind of noticed this after I had realized what I was doing, which was, in terms of culture, like you had said, the right wing is non-existent. And if you watch anything, you can expect to see a woman throwing men around. You can expect to see gay black guys. You can expect to see just anything that is just, disgusting and degenerate.
Yep.
But I started watching anime probably around the same time this stuff started really kicking up. Now, I couldn't have articulated it to you then, but I think now looking back on it, I moved to anime because it was like the last bastion of fiction content that wasn't overloaded with extreme gay stuff. And then now I look back at it, it's no wonder why you see the majority of men now, especially young men, watch anime over live action anything here in America. And that is because the hero story is at least alive and well in Japanese culture. Here in America, it's the villain's always misunderstood. And it's like you see all these Lucifer episodes come out now, and it's like, Jesus actually was like, heaven was corrupt actually. And Lucifer was like this guy that like, brooding that no one really got. And it's like, nobody wants that anymore. Nobody wants to see that stuff. And the way I kind of think about it too, like I loved Star Wars. I loved Lord of the Rings. And when I turned 24, 25, I should have been excited for, what the third iteration of the trilogy would be. Should have been excited for what the next thing they're going to do with that. And I didn't get that. What I got was like a raped version of like what I would have wanted to see.
So here's two thoughts on that, and then I'll be done for the show. But you're describing that statue in the block of marble, all right? So there's something fundamentally true. Even the original Star Wars trilogy hit that it's the hero's journey, right? But it's a story that makes sense. And G.K. Chesterton, who I would imagine you kind of at least know of if you're Christian, but back in the early 1900s, he was talking all about this, that he called a story a fairy tale, but the quintessential unit of a story a fairy tale used to be a regular person in a fucked up world, and that's what made it interesting. Like C.S. Lewis and The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, just regular ass kids go into this fantastical world and their regular ass way of dealing and growing with it, because that mirrors real life. You're this regular ass innocent person, and then you go into this crazy ass world. What even Chesterton said back in the early 1900s was, now modern fiction is an irregular or weird narrator in a normal world. And that's what you're talking about with Lucifer and all that shit. That's what everything has become.
Yeah.
That the ordinary world is somehow bad. These innocent, normal, they treat everybody as dumb. And they create these weird character, House, fucking Dexter, right? All the same shit. It's a weird sociopath operating in a fairy tale that's actually normal. And so what makes the good story is the opposite. It's the original. It's Hansel and Gretel. It's just two regular kids get thrown into a confrontation with a battle of wits and physical, sometimes with a witch or a trickster, or these things that really are out there in the world. Some
Right.
weird dressed transsexual woman beast.
Yeah, some
Trying
conniving.
to fucking, steal your nuts to wear as her fucking earrings. Like shit. That's much closer to reality.
Yeah.
And that's the fundamental hero's journey. Even Lord of the Rings, so in Star Wars as well, Luke Skywalker is this little pimply loser teenager who has no powers and has to, and his aunt and uncle get killed, and he's thrust into this adventure that he fails at over and over again.
Yeah.
Until he overcomes that with genuine training. He becomes a new person. He has a rebirth. And before he's able to do that, he has to go all the way to the dark side and almost fucking fall into it before he can come back out and start that ascent back out in the hero's journey. The new Star Wars, especially the new ones, are just, she's a Mary Sue. She's just fucking Superman. And it's not good. And even without ever any training in that, without taking college classes on the monomyth and the hero's journey and any, you can just sense, if you're a smart person, I think, that like there's something wrong here. And so it makes sense to me that you found the original ones exciting. It's a genuine metaphor or parable, if you will, right? And this is the way I'll tie this all together. It's a parable for the way things actually work. And then you go into the Bible and you have that famous part, why do you speak to them in parables? And Jesus is like, so they fucking understand. They fucking get it. They have eyes, but they're not seeing. And they have ears, but they're not hearing. And so I'm fucking telling them a parable, dog.
Yeah.
Like, because there's that. I tell them a story. I tell them a fable, Aesop's fables, all this. That's the shit, man, that punches through. That is a replacement for that statue with eyeballs telling you to do what the king wants. Because you need this other abstract thing that is just fundamentally true, that speaks across time and culture, whatever. You're an ordinary guy. The world is fucked up. You get called to adventure. You'll usually refuse it. That's normal. Meet a mentor like this, like that. That is the journey.
Right.
And so I have a suspicion that if you tell stories that way again, people will quite enjoy them.
I completely agree. And I think you don't even have to look hard. You don't have to guess. You don't have to pay a researcher for it. You just got to look at anime. And there's a stat that blew my mind, and I think it was with the Demon Slayer anime, which is one that did really well. But it was their first season, just that series by itself, no other anime included, just that one alone. You could have taken everything for the last month, all of the ratings from everything America made, Hollywood, everything, and it would have been half of what the ratings were for Demon Slayer, which I think just shows how much of a grip it has because people are moving to those things. And I don't really see anything anymore that's live action that's invigorating or makes me go like, oh, I want to see that. Because I've had the rug pulled out for me too many times. I see this super cool movie, and within the first 10 minutes, there's a sex scene, and it's like, dude, oh my gosh, okay. It's like, never mind. Like, I guess I'll never do that again.
Yep, I feel your pain. Sounds familiar.
But but that means there is room. There's room for people to make content and build for it, work for it.
that's yet to be freed from the marble. It's out there.
Right, exactly. Well, this has been a fantastic episode. I appreciate you sharing all your time, man. This has been a great conversation. I wanted to, while we had a couple minutes, is there anything that you wanted to talk about that we didn't discuss? I kind of hardly looked at the outline. We kind of just kept going.
Oh, this was I had a blast. Thank you for having me on your show. Hopefully, your fans enjoyed it. I'm working on this mini series, so I'm not putting out a ton of videos right now, and I've never really been good at self promoting. But at some point when that comes out, check out my channel. Can't tell you when it'll be, so I'm just kind of jokingly saying don't worry about it. But if you want to check out my stuff, John Ward on YouTube, at not John Ward on X, because I was banned back in 2020, so I had to make a new one. So I'm not John Ward on Twitter. But other than that, man, do your thing. I'm sure you and I will talk much more often on the air, both. I'd love to get you on a Sunday show with us on 3CC if you're ever down. But
totally
this
down.
was great. You're a great host. You ask good questions. You're well prepared. This was fun. I'll talk about this stuff anytime.
Hey, no, I appreciate it very much, man. And yeah, definitely everybody make sure you go support John Ward. It is kind of confusing because like you said, your ex handle was not John Ward. So like I had to go verify it. I was like, I just want to be sure I'm not going to be sending DMs to the wrong
worst
guy.
content creator out there. I'm like the worst person on the planet at actually growing a brand, but that's mostly intentional. So it is what it is.
Word. Okay, that makes sense. Hey,
glad you figured it out.
No, I did. I see. I have an inner monologue. Just took me a second, but I do appreciate it, man. Thank you very much. I did miss 2 super chats. I'll rip these off real quick. Had one from outside the Overton said, "Tell them about the monkeys," which I think that was the Stone Ape theory. And then Nordery said, "How long have you been smoking that one cigarette?"
This has been like 30 cigarettes. It is what it is.
That's awesome. Well, thank you guys very much. I do appreciate it. This has been Offensively Accurate. Hopefully this sheds some light on some things. And thank you very much for John Ward. We will see you guys next time. Take care. What's good, everybody? This is Atlas Thug. As much as we have, it's currently a media blackout right now. It's about a 10-minute video here. Get the libertarians out of this party, dude. Part of a new series I'm going to be running called Bot or Not.
I grew up as a white man, and you're the exact opposite, you know?
It's time we have a difficult conversation about race.
40 IQ points it needs to think about what is being told to you.
Most people are just blatantly apathetic to what goes on around them and surroundings, let alone just blatant.
A trans woman's penis make you gay?
Can I decline to answer that comment?
The dating market is for men your age. I'm not a misogynist. I'm a sexist. Right. Like for example, like as a white man, I can go out and I could go right here in Columbus and scream the N-word as loud as I wanted to because I have that privilege. Those who would sacrifice a little freedom for a little convenience serves neither.
Titan says, Browns should be for whites. We were just trying to help them run a better empire.
Hey, truth.
But she's straight up, she's like, stock market. She's like, bro, like, I can't even buy a fucking house. Like,
and probably doesn't help that half the comments are, "Oh, you're not banned on YouTube. Man, how is this guy? How's this guy not banned on YouTube?" It's like, yeah, I'm sure YouTube probably picks up on those things, and they're probably wondering why so many people are saying that,
and all these top brass pundits who have some kind of association or relationship with Epstein, it's getting to the point where you got to think like I'm about to go look at my residential history and be like, did I live next to Epstein for like some time? Like, man, everyone on this planet must have some relation to Epstein. And then you go, oh, actually, no. This is because the administration is all wrapped in together with it themselves.
and I said this maybe about a year ago. What if Christianity wasn't in such a cucked position that what if Andrew Tate, like Tristan, would have went to a Christian position? Fell for it again award, #1 right here. And you know what? I can't even make fun of the audience because I fell for it too. And that's probably what I'm most pissed about. he's huffing some extreme copium. Oh yeah, sister, you definitely owned him. Hey, can I see you after tonight? You know, it's like that's like that's what you're competing up against because or bad jacketing him and calling him a weird little gay.
Is this like alt-right corpse husband? What am I listening
Okay, stop it. This guy's gonna get into statistics, stuff like that.
to? Oh, no, statistics. Not
So-
on the show. We
so-
don't do statistics.